Viva Cristo Rey!
The Antichrist revolution is here. The revolution is here. The world collapses into apostasy. The Conciliar Church bows to the synagogue. The New World Order advances its plans for control. And the last Catholics, the bandits, the rigid, the hardliners, we stand on the battlefield again. But make no mistake, this is no longer just about the Latin Mass. This is about the social kingship of Christ. Christ is either king or he is removed. There is no middle ground. The Vendee fought. Will we? The Synagogue of Satan and the war against Christ the King. Christ himself warned us, I know thy tribulation and thy poverty, but thou art rich, and thou art blasphemed by them that say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Apocalypse 2:9. Has this synagogue disappeared? Or has it grown stronger, embedding itself in the governments, the banks, and even the church? From the Sanhedrin that condemned Christ to the rabbinical leaders who led the revolutions, from the Freemasons who attacked Christendom, to the Conciliar Church that bows before them. The war against Christ has never stopped. And yet, how many Catholics today even recognize the battle? How many remain silent because they are afraid? And if we remain silent, who will fight? The technocratic enslavement of mankind. Dr. Hogan, a recent convert to Catholicism, has been exposing the massive push toward what he calls AI serfdom, the consolidation of power, and the destruction of the beatific vision under a new technocratic order. He has rightly identified the Synagogue of Satan as the external enemy of Christendom. Here's a brief excerpt from his recent video, The Golden Age equals AI serfdom, from his channel, Dr. Deep State.
Christ would say, if you reject me, you reject the Father. You do not know him. You have a different God. And so what they're really doing is they're engaging with demonology. So this is en masse, a trans-historical, trans-alchemical attempt to get all human consciousness engaged in techno-demonology. They want to bring these in. And the epitome of this will create a antichrist demonic mentality, and ultimately an antichrist that will be fully absorbed by the Spirit. So that's what really Kabbalah is about. So if someone's yapping about the stonecutters, it's not going to get you there. Once you identify the enmity, all the dots get together, and the power will come. You can tell you've been socially engineered not to put your finger on that dot. But once you do, it really does help you get back to the power. And I can see it in my locals community. There's a lot of the engagement over there is very exciting. And again, I encourage you to go over there. You want to be Catholic. That's what's going on in the world today. The advancement of Stargate, AI, the new technology, MR, that's going to be connected to you, the surveillance state, Noahide, full spectrum dominance in the new age. And this is what's going to bring, again, together. What they're really merging is heaven and hell. It's the ethereal realm. It's the demonic. And they have names behind the planets. And what would we as Christians call the names behind the planets, right? They're dark forces, right? Saturn and so forth. They're dark forces. So this is what they're engaging with at a very advanced AI technological level. They want you to be literally threaded in through AI technology. The infrastructure is being put in below us. Neuralace, Stargate, it's going to be all around us, so you're trapped into this system. And this is where we get to the mark of the beast. You want to participate in the system. And we're going to get into some interesting stuff in this chapter, because literally 666 is like their combination code. that brings you through the Stargate and into the system. Even somebody named Spangler said, if you want to enter the New Age, you have to take the pledge.
Dr. Hogan has rightly identified that the world is being reshaped into an artificial Antichrist order. But this is where we must go deeper. The external enemy, rabbinical Judaism, Judeo-Freemasonry, and global finance has always existed. But the greatest betrayal has always come from within. The true Synagogue of Satan does not just build a new world order, it uses Catholics to dismantle the reign of Christ from within the church itself. Vatican II, the betrayal of Christ the King. One of the greatest lies ever spread is the idea of a Judeo-Christian world. Christianity is not an evolution of rabbinical Judaism. It is the replacement of the synagogue by the church. But Vatican II's Nostra Aetate blurred this enmity, creating a false unity between the church and those who reject Christ. Dr. Hogan has spoke on this deception, how the concept of Judeo-Christianity has led many Catholics to misunderstand the true battle. Let's listen to his insight.
When Christ talks about paradoxes, in my church there will be wheat and tares. And we see in the typology, from the womb of Eve, you get Cain and Abel. From the womb of Rebekah, you get Esau and Jacob. And from the same people, you get Christ in the synagogue. So these crazy ironies, and it makes it sometimes hard to untangle when people throw terms on us like Judeo-Christian, because it's blurring the enmity. When we read documents, or the speech that has come from documents like Nostra Aetate, they recognize the big brother, but they blur the enmity. And that's going to take us into this, what we're about to see is this egregore mind virus of earthly Jerusalem that so many Christians are trapped in.
Dr. Hogan is right to recognize the deception. The concept of Judeo-Christianity is a lie. Nostra Aetate was not just a flawed document, it was a direct betrayal of Christ. But here's what must be made clear. The greatest damage to the church was not done by the Synagogue of Satan directly. It was done by Catholics who accepted their lies. Just as it was the chosen people who crucified our Lord, committing deicide, so too did it take Catholics, those entrusted with the faith, to betray and wound his mystical body. This began with Judas, whose treachery set a precedent for betrayal within the church. But it didn't stop there. Judeo-Masonry, a powerful force behind this infiltration, an agent of the Synagogue of Satan, didn't need to act alone. They required the silent consent and active cooperation of Catholics, often those who remained outwardly faithful, yet compromised the truth of the faith. This infiltration began with the Carbonari, a Judeo-Masonic society that demanded its members to be Catholics, and often devout ones at that, who regularly attended the sacraments. Through them, the church was slowly undermined and the hierarchy was infiltrated, culminating in Vatican II, the formalization of the anti-church that sought to dismantle Christ's kingship from within. This is a reflection of the crucifixion on Mount Calvary, where on that day, not only did the Jews reject the Messiah, but also the apostles. With the exception of Mary, the church's first members abandoned him. Likewise, Catholics today have abandoned the church's unchanging truths, opening the door to the Synagogue of Satan's agenda to destroy the kingship of Christ and the social reign of our Lord. The last bastion, Archbishop Lefebvre's stand against this revolution. We have exposed the external enemy, the Synagogue of Satan. We have exposed the internal enemy, liberal Catholicism and modernism. But now, we must ask, what was the last true resistance? Who was the last prelate to stand completely and unambiguously against modernist Rome? Who ensured that valid priests, valid sacraments, and the condemnation of error remained intact? The answer is clear. Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre and the Society of St. Pius X. We adhere with all our heart and all our soul to Catholic Rome, guardian of the Catholic faith. But we refuse and have always refused to follow the Rome of neo-modernist and neo-Protestant tendencies. But then, the final act of deception took place. The last visible bastion was infiltrated. The only true resistance was neutralized. The last Catholic stand. If Archbishop Lefebvre was right, then Bishop Fillet was wrong. If Vatican II is a false religion, then there can be no unity with Rome until Rome converts. And so, what must Catholics do? Separate from the neo-SSPX. They have been neutralized. Seek out uncompromised priests who continue Lefebvre's mission. Sanctify Sundays at home if no true Mass is available. Warn others and spread this truth. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot be faithful to Lefebvre and loyal to modernist Rome. You must choose. This is the last stand. The Vendee fought, will we? The Cristeros fought, will we? Archbishop Lefebvre fought, will we? The battle is not over. The final remnant remains. We fight under the banner of the Immaculate Heart so that the Sacred Heart can reign. This is the last stand. As Bishop Williamson boldly declared on the day of his episcopal consecration in 1988, c'est la guerre. It is war. And so it is. The battle for Christ's kingship and the defense of his church rages on. And the last stand is upon us. No more compromise. No more retreat.